Let's fucking crush it.
Do it.
Go. All right. So welcome everybody to a Sunday edition of Get In Fellows. We're Going to Therapy podcast. I'm joined by Carolyn Reese. I don't know what the name situation is. You gonna go Klein?
Oh, for sure. Carolyn Klein is so cute. Yeah, that's a whole vibe.
Carolyn and I'm good friends with a fraternity brother of mine. This is my buddy Graham Klein, a loyal KGB's fiance, Carolyn. Last night we were just chopping it up, and the topic of can Graham come out to a boys' weekend in Denver? You know, I wanted them to come out to Big Wild in a couple of weeks and just like really vibe out. Carolyn was like, I've traveled a bunch and Graham can go on his own.
Yeah.
I said to her, hey, that's one of the 5 questions you'd want to ask your bro's fiance before they get married, right? So then we just started thinking and wanted to think, what are the 5 questions you'd ask?
Yeah, what are the important things that you need to know about this girl that's entering your man's life to make sure that she passes the vibe check?
Totally. And I think we've all been at weddings where we're like, I wish I would have asked some of those questions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Get to know you, but also like making sure.
You want to tell people about yourself?
Sure. So, hi everybody. I'm Carolyn. My hobby is competitive ballroom dance. Graham and I have been dating for a year. We got engaged 2 weeks ago, and we're excited to get married next summer. August 10th, 2025 is what we're aiming for.
Columbus, not Cleveland. We'll see if her parents will come downtown or come down to sit Columbus for it. So right before this, they were doing the Hora, and I wanted to get Carolyn out here to start interviewing, but her and Graham were dancing, and I thought, well, this is the first wedding they've danced out since they've gotten engaged. So I was like, don't ruin this, you asshole, because you want to get this shit ready. So
yeah, you know, one of the first questions people ask me when they find out that I'm a ballroom dancer is they always ask if Graham is a dancer. And I think that's so funny. Like, ballroom dancing is my hobby, and I don't need my partner to be involved in that hobby. The only thing I need is for him to make a fool of himself on the dance floor with me, because I will be the first one out there dancing no matter what the dance, no matter what the song is. And that is 500% Graham. Like, he's probably out there right now while I'm recording this because he's having a good time. Yeah. But no, we do not ballroom dance together. I have a partner for that. He's my best friend. We've been dancing together 10 years, and that's our hobby together. Graham is super supportive. He loves to come and cheer us on, but no, he does not share that hobby with me.
You hear that, boys? It's not about how you dance. It is that you dance.
And you're willing to make a fool of yourself because nobody cares as long as you're out there having a good time.
Low bar for shame. I was at a wedding of John Rackauer, another KGB, and his mother, stepmom said to me, oh, you're a good dancer. I was like, that's not true. And she goes, no, but you know to dance. Yeah. And I was like, that is true, ma'am. That is true.
Get out there. Like, do you remember when you were younger, sitting on the sidelines, like watching other people dance and being too embarrassed of yourself to go out there? Like, I actively remember that about myself, wishing I was out there. And then as an adult, just like, it's so freeing to not care what anybody thinks and to go out there. And if you're just confident, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You can do a step tap side to side, but if you're having a blast, other people love watching you. That was like the #1 thing I learned as an adult. Yeah.
Carolyn's ready to answer these questions, how she might answer them. Probably sprinkle with a little bit of like what we might expect from women or what the stereotypes might be.
Yeah.
So we're kind of going with it, and we were actually deciding whether to make these like jokey or serious, and we got to try to land in the middle. So you guys let us know what you think, because we think just pulling it out of our ass earlier this morning. These are the 5. So Carolyn, can you tell me, how are you close with your family?
So I'm really lucky. I am super close with my family. I'm the second of 4. I have 2 amazing parents that all of my friends love to be around. And if you ask me like what my ideal relationship would look like, it's something very similar to what my parents have, where they are openly very in love with each other. They also there were some like foundational basic things that I knew growing up that would never change about my parents. The first one is that we would never be hit. So like we were openly told, like, we'll never touch you, we'll never hit you. That's not a form of punishment for us. The other thing is that they would never argue in front of us. So even if they disagreed, they would make sure that they did that in private, but that they supported each other in front of us. And so we were just really fortunate and lucky. And like, I love like my dad. I'm obsessed with my dad. I'm a huge daddy's girl. And I definitely feel like that always translates.
It's all such good stuff, right? Like, I bet a lot of parents want to set those limits and want to say, we're not going to use physical punishment. We're not going to fight in front of the kids. But to actually execute that requires a lot of inner strength and stability. And they
also let us flounder. Like, I think that's so important in a parent. Like, all four of us, after we graduated college, had no idea what we were doing with our lives. We all floundered for a little bit, but we all like ended up as such productive members of society that my parents are so proud of. And it's because like we always knew that we had that safety net, and that if we fell, and I fell multiple times. I failed at my first job. We all fall. Like I almost had to drop out of college. My mom drove down that day, pulled me back together and made sure that I didn't leave, So like I always had that safety net. And so I'm really lucky.
We're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks when Jason comes on the concept of dialectical dilemmas in parenting. And so these are the ideas of any topic of parenting. You're going to be on a seesaw of balance. So fostering independence with your kid versus forcing dependence.
Yes.
There should be a balance between letting them know you're there for them and also not forcing you to depend on them. So Carolyn and I were joking last night. Graham is not a therapist. He's a loyal KGB and a reader of the content Rex and all that other important stuff. And she was saying, yeah, I really like dating emotionally attuned men.
Oh,
I was like,
sure.
oh, that's awesome.
My type. Like you asked me what my type is, emotionally intelligent men. And so I've dated a couple therapists, and it's interesting because Graham talks like those therapists that I dated, but he's like really internalized not just the teachings, but made it like relevant to him. And you could tell he uses his own words and not like the preached out words that like I'm used to hearing from like therapy speak. And it was so refreshing when we first started dating to hear those out of somebody without that background.
Carolyn, I think you can tell what we're trying to do on the podcast is teach men that type of language.
Yeah.
That you can use these feeling words and emotion words, and you can say fucking bro.
Yeah.
Because they all can go together. That is the way of the world.
It definitely can, and it's super hot when they do.
Yeah. Hey, ladies, what's up? And so, Carolyn, I think it's a great answer, right? When we're asking that question, we're really trying to understand. Carolyn, I was joking about attachment styles earlier as we got ready for this interview, and she goes, oh, my style? Secure. I was just like, fuck, dude. Like, if somebody's going to step to you like that and say they're secure, you know that they've probably got a good relationship with their family and that they're fucking confident, dude. I was like,
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's great.
Years though, let me tell you, like so not me as a kid, so not me in high school. Like it really takes time to figure it out, and I'm really grateful that I had the time to do it.
Yeah, it's very true, right? I think about relationships kind of like when you start dating and how it passes. So, the divorce rate with high school sweethearts being in that early 20s because you're naturally going to grow. College sweethearts usually do okay. And people like you and Graham who meet in your 30s, it's like, oh, fuck it, dude, this is just like a vibe. Like if you get somebody like that and it's so nice.
No, it's like walking into a home and being like, yeah, this is where I belong. It's
tight. When you've had that time to grow, it's just easy.
When you're so secure in who you are and confident with like what you're looking for, it's
awesome. So we're thinking of your family, your childhood stuff, just to kind of know what your base is and what it's like for you and how it's been.
And that's not to say that somebody with a bad like childhood can't get past that too. Like I think that one of the biggest things to look for in somebody that like maybe doesn't have as close of a relationship with their parents or like has had a rougher time with it is that they've actually processed through that and that they can actually articulate how it affected them and what they've had to do to work on that. And I think that's really what Graham brought to the relationship is like, there were things that he would talk about in the beginning of how he was raised or what his relationship was like, but he always put it in the context of how he's learned from it. Yeah. And so it's not that I was looking for somebody else that had this perfect, relationship with their family or lifestyle, but that he's really like done the work himself to figure out how it affected him and how that shows up in a relationship and what he's trying to change so that it's different. And I see it. I see that work all the time.
So Carol and I were talking, this is a concept called the adult attachment interview. Okay. So the idea is you ask somebody to talk about their childhood, and childhood can be terrible, right? Abuse or whatever. But the answer is you should understand that and be able to explain it in a consistent way.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're like, oh my God, my childhood was great, but also like my dad broke my arm once when he was mad at me, those are conflicting points. That means you haven't really learned and grown from the experience. Like Carolyn's saying, if you had a rough upbringing and you can say, it was rough, and I understand that my mom had these things and my dad had these things, and they certainly tried their best and they helped us, but it doesn't mean it was great all the time. And if you can say something like that.
So important. Like I respect that they did their best, but I understand where they came from and why they parented the way they did and why it didn't work. Yeah. Like that is also like a level of maturity that is so respect. Like I mad respect.
When I bring up on this podcast, like your childhoods and your parenting stuff, it's like, I don't want anyone to make themselves feel bad how they're doing as a parent or how they did as parents if you're older and watching this. It's just this is objective stuff, right? And we need to be able to understand those things to, again, grow, be able to process it. And then of course, do as well as we want to do as parents, right? So we've been parents, we've been kids already. Number two, Carolyn, will you tell me about your longest lasting friendships?
Sure. So one of my longest lasting friendships is my best friend from high school. I had a rough time in high school where I didn't really feel like I had a friend group or a place to belong. I was part of a very large high school, 500-person graduating class. But right at the end there, I sort of found my place. I found my person, and I found somebody that, like, that summer after my senior year, like, she invited me to be part of her prom group, and then that became my core group of friends that summer afterwards. And that's when I really started to blossom and figure out how to socialize and be that person. She now lives across the country in Germany, and I'm not even kidding. I was texting her today saying, like, can I just vent? And, like, it's so meaningful every single time we connect and get together. My second closest friendship is my dance partner. He is my best friend. It's the male version of me. We have been dancing together for 10 years, best friends the entire time. From the moment we met, we had this connection where we were inseparable. He was in an awful 9-year relationship with a man that I absolutely despised, to the point that I hated, and I don't use that word lightly. And I instigated their breakup recently and said to him, like, I've seen this coming for a really long time. Graham and I know that this isn't healthy, and we've expected this. We have a room we've started calling your room. We have a place for you. We're going to catch you the moment you fall. And he's been living with us for a couple months now.
Can I ask you what took so long to say something?
You know,
It's
that
hard.
is such a good question, and I could have a whole separate hour-long rant about this, but I will say what took so long is, you know, when it first started and it was unhealthy, we were too young to know. I hadn't even started dating myself. As an adult, and I was watching this unhealthy behavior happen, I didn't know, like, you can only tell an adult so much, especially when they're telling you that they're happy. And when I'm asking, hey, are you happy in this relationship? Or every time I'm checking in and I'm saying, hey, I'm seeing this and I'm uncomfortable with it. How do you feel about it? And they're saying, oh, I don't like that either. Yes, like, I appreciate you talking to me, and please check up with me about this specific thing. But it's only 2% of what you're seeing that you hate. It's so
It's
hard
like you're trying to
go
teach
from
your partner
2%.
self-advocacy while you in your 20s are learning self-advocacy.
Yeah. So
yeah.
over the years, I had multiple times where I would confront him about money, about how he was being treated, about, like, these things that I was seeing that were so not healthy. And then other times I'd confront him, and I didn't want our whole relationship to be me coming at him like, hey, this is, like, what's going on here. I wanted there to be some
I feel like
from him, but then it
guys
started blending too much. I started therapy twice over this relationship. I'm not exaggerating. It took me 2 different
trauma
therapists,
by proxy.
and they still, like, they just said, wow, that sounds like a really tough thing that's going on, and they never could help. But finally, I just, like, had a breaking point where I was like, what are we doing? It's been a year since this man was admitted, and you said you needed to see change. I've seen a baby step forward and 7 steps back. Like, I see this coming. I want to support you. When are you breaking up with him? And it was literally that weekend that it happened. It was like, you know, it's not always a big traumatic event, but it happened to be a big traumatic event where this man, again, got drunk because he's an alcoholic and was misbehaving. And it was the last straw, and he needed that last straw to do it, even though he should have just.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And honestly, like, this is kind of where that stems from. And this, again, we're bro talking to a female fiance, but, like, this goes both ways and we all know it. And honestly, it would be the same questions. I would just kind of ask in reverse order.
And it's funny that you asked me that question because, you know, on our first date, Graham and I's first date, one of the things he asked me was, do you go to therapy? And
Graham, dude.
I love that question, of course, because I dated therapists. But, you know, at the time I hadn't gone to therapy, but I started talking about my dance partner, and, like, it was a similar sort of question that led to, like, my friendships and what's important to me. And, you know, to be honest, I am a little bit too invested in the people that I care a lot about, in them being happy, but, like, me trying to force what I think
you're also literally, like,
them.
touching him all the time. Like, this is somebody who is, like, I mean, honestly, like, a part of you, the way you guys, the way you move together and things. I mean, it is a connection that is very real, and I can totally see it.
We talked about that and how I started therapy twice over it, but neither of the therapists were helpful. So it did come up very early in our relationship how close I was with my dance partner.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's interesting, Graham. I love that. First off, good shit. And Carolyn's maybe a good example of somebody who, you know, had a pretty good upbringing and had good connections with people, and maybe you just didn't think therapy, right? You didn't think it was something you needed because people think,
Cool.
okay, yeah,
And
you're
that
saying
was
real
the
tough times. Yeah.
Full therapy I had was in high school, like somebody that would just talk to me about my lack of confidence and like why. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
which
haven't
is good
gone
as
to
a
therapy since
teenager.
then. I wish I could.
Yeah. I mean, it's about fit, right?
Yeah.
And it's also, if you don't come to therapy with goals, then it's probably not going to go as well as you think. So what I ask my people to do when we're starting a therapy, either once a week or sometimes every other week relationship is, I want you to list all the roles you have in life, which is where I got the 5 books come from, right?
Yeah.
I'm a coworker, I'm a friend, I'm a parent, I'm a romantic partner, and I'm a person.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell me what you think's going well and what you think you could improve on.
I love those
And that's
questions.
where we start.
I wish
That's where
my
we start.
therapist did that. I feel like sometimes I was too high functioning for some of the
Right.
therapists I talked to. They cared more about some of the people in my life that were lower functioning and figuring out what's going on with them than like how I could support them. And I just think that was like,
I
it's a
try to
shame
walk
that
this
I never
fine.
found somebody that could actually like help
Yeah.
me grow. But I'm finding that in a partner, and I'm really grateful for
Which is great. As I've said, if you have enough emotional support, then the need for therapy goes down, right? But my skill as a therapist has just been thinking, and you guys can all imagine, I have patients who watch the show. Like the vibe is all the same in the room. If you're over like 13, I'm probably coming at you with the exact same attitude. So, that's really great. So this question or this whole interview stemmed from number 3, this very important question of how much shit do you give when your guy goes on a bros weekend or a bros trip?
I think that it is so important that he actually takes that time apart. It is like, I miss him when I go away on girls trips or when I'm on dance trips that he's not a part of. And it's so nice to come back together. But like, I also love when he joins me on them, and that's great. But he needs his alone time and I need my alone time, and he needs to recharge. Like, I just don't think that your partner can be your everything. And so you have to have these other friendships that are just as strong, that you can rely on, that you can bounce ideas off of. And you need that bro time, quite honestly. Graham and I have so much trust that I don't even need him to tell me what he's doing on these trips. Like, I don't care if you are doing illegal drugs or if you're going into strip clubs. Like, I don't need to know that, because I know that when you're there, you're going to be doing things that we've already talked about that we're okay with.
Yeah.
Right, Graham?
Which is great communication. Graham is on looking. Actually, in a secure relationship, he's mostly just been moseying around in the background. He's not really like watching this or really caring how she responds. And that, you want to pop in? Sure. That is the sign of a good relationship. So, Graham, let's see if this is actually true. Carolyn claims that she does not give you much shit when you go on a bros weekend or a boys trip.
Like zero.
Like zero. So
yeah, I don't even have to necessarily call her. I mean, I usually do, just to like make things easy, just say hi.
He has feelings too, our boy, connection.
But otherwise, yeah, totally leaves me alone to hang out with the fellas.
Yeah, which is good.
I call him more when I go on girls trips. Like, I feel like I call him to say goodnight, because I'm like, hi, I miss you. And
he's like chilling with the dog, like,
he's like, whatever.
What's up, honey? I was like, blah, I've been like chilling in my boxers all day, scratching my balls, like fucking just chilling. Tell me about something you're passionate about.
I actually think that my job really does align with something that I care a lot about. So I work for Express Home Office, and it's a clothing retailer. And I really identify with their mission statement to create confidence and inspire self-expression. And I don't know about you, but like, there have definitely been times in my life where I feel social anxiety, kind of like the first time I met Graham. I was going to a party and I knew nobody there. I didn't know anybody walking in, but I knew it was a community I wanted to be a part of, and then I needed to put myself out there. And when I'm in those situations where I feel uncomfortable, the thing that I like lean back on is, do I look acceptable? Like, am I going to look the part? Am I going to look out of place? And so I think really hard about what I'm going to wear, and if I can be confident in what I'm wearing going in, and then I can be a confident person. And so I really identify with Express's mission to create that confidence in people. Like, your clothing is something that you think about for every single big day, whether it's your wedding, whether it's your graduation. You think about what you're going to wear. You want to make sure you look nice, that you look presentable. And like, being a part of making somebody feel that way, or like talking to anybody at any party and saying I work there, and they saying like, oh yeah, I'm wearing Express, and like, I love their clothes, or oh yeah, I love shopping there. Like, that makes me feel so valuable. And that's why I love the work that I do. And I'm not that person that chooses the clothing, right? Like I do something ancillary, nerdy, math related, and it's like very Excel based and like, but just being a part of a company that does that and having other people tell me that they know the brands, like having brand recognition and that they enjoy wearing it, like I think that means a lot to me.
Totally. And I don't know if you knew this part. So Graham walked in with this baby blue blazer and I grabbed the shoulder because I had that same one in my trunk, and it's not cool out here in Cleveland, Ohio in August, as you might imagine. And so I didn't wear it, but I was like, is that Express? And I was like, same one in my car, bro. And he goes, oh, Carolyn works at Express. So, you know, so I didn't even realize that before. Yeah.
Express.
If you didn't know, Columbus, Ohio is the home of Express, Abercrombie, Victoria's Secret.
DSW.
Yeah, a lot of big names.
Bath and Body Works. It's the third largest center for corporate retail after New York and LA, as you can imagine. But
Columbus, Ohio, don't you know?
If you're in the
I love Columbus. It's a great city. Yeah, absolutely. And that makes a lot of sense, right? Like, I think people end up sometimes, you know, you're picking your career path in college, and it doesn't always fit. And so a lot of people get burned out in their careers, especially our audience in their 20s, right? So you want to, hopefully, if you have a job you don't love, then you have another way to spend passions otherwise. Because this is very much how it is for men. And you heard me talk about this about fantasy football last week.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what you're nerdy about, but you need to have at least a thing that you're nerdy about. And that can be gardening, cooking, sports, ballroom dancing, right? Like something that you're passionate about. I like to say nerdy because nerd is a fanatic.
Yeah.
Fan is a fanatic. Yeah, we get into other labels when nerdiness is like mean, right? So I love that, and it's it's important, you know. The last question is, are you cool with Graham having female friends?
Yeah, that was actually something we talked about again on one of our first dates. And in college, I used to identify as just having a lot of straight male friends. Now, after college, many of them did happen to come out. And that was just like happened to. Yeah. But I do still have straight male friends that are just friends. And I firmly believe that you can have a really strong relationship with somebody of the opposite sex and still not be interested in having sex with them. And like attraction is made up of so many more things than just them having the opposite sex organs or whatever you're into. You know what I mean? And one of Graham's closest friends is a female, and we have a great relationship, and he hangs out with her solo all the time. But like, you can set whatever boundary you're comfortable with around that. I just don't need that much of a boundary. But like, I do think that you just have to talk about what you're comfortable with in terms of like what a healthy relationship with somebody of the opposite sex looks like. Because for some people, maybe it's like, hey, I'm not comfortable with you hugging them. That's a symbol to me that would be too far. And I wouldn't have even thought of that because for me, I'm like, go cuddle in a bed together, have fun. Like, I know you won't cross any lines. Now, and that's me.
Securely attached, this one. Oh, the rest of us could be so lucky to not worry about that. I'm just kidding around. But like, that's the ideal.
Yeah, but you have to talk about what's comfortable for you. And that's the only thing that matters is like, what are you comfortable with? If you're not comfortable with them hanging out alone in a house together, okay, well, maybe they can go out in public and have dinner together. And that's still okay. That's a solo relationship in public. Like, you have to figure out what boundaries you're comfortable with.
We asked this,
with that.
You know, we asked this because it goes both ways in these relationships where we've all been in relationships. And again, you guys know this isn't like really gender based, some of these things, because they can always flip.
Oh, 100%.
Always flip. And so the question is whether the guy isolates the girl from her friends or whether the girl isolates the guy from his friends. And sometimes the partner is a willing player in that. So you as the boyfriend might have the pattern of, I'm just going to cut all you guys off whenever I have a girlfriend. So it might not even be the girlfriend's or fiance's fault. You know, it could just be that's your
we all know those people, those friends that disappear once they get in a relationship.
Gone, right?
And I love that that's their commitment and that's what they want to do. And I just wish that they felt like that. I wish they understood that your partner can't always be your everything. Like, you have to get support from multiple angles.
Yeah.
And like, that you should be continuing to have those close people that check you, that tell you when it's not healthy, and like you need that, and don't just let it all go. But you know, like, there's different moments in your life where you will be more removed from those friends, like when you have a kid and you naturally just have to like focus on your relationship and your baby. Like, that's a natural time when you will become more distant from some of your friends, and that's okay. But like, when you're starting a relationship,
kids and some of your friends are having kids, I guess in our, closer to our mid-30s now.
Right, yeah. But like starting a relationship isn't that time when you distance yourself from people. That's when I put my partner to the friend test.
Oh, yeah.
Tell you, you got those people. You all need those people. My girl Elise has gotten me into
How many dates?
out.
How many dates?
I don't think it's how many
Until
dates.
just vibe. But
like, it
no
was like,
arbitrary
no,
rules,
just
Carolyn.
rules.
No rules. We love that. Yeah.
What's natural and what works out. And so like there was a moment where it's like, well, they got to go through the Elise test. Like she's gotten me into and out of every single relationship I've been in, whether it was devastating or mutual. Like she talked me through it. She texted me every day afterwards the exact things I needed to hear and let me rant about it as much as I like needed to.
Is she a therapist or just a secure?
Gosh, I wish, right? Like she should be. She should. And,
some people are just good at it. Some people are good at it.
Take her own advice, even.
We'll get into that.
So good at giving you advice and telling you exactly what you need to hear without you knowing what you need to hear. But then, like, I want the same for her so bad. Yeah.
Carolyn, we're doing this DBT block right now, and the main thing we talked about when we talked about validation is that we're all better at validating others more than ourselves. And that is a great example of like, you can get, and this is honestly true of a lot of therapists, right? Like I did not enter this field without my own anxieties and flaws, as any of them do, right? I think a lot of people are drawn to this field as helpers because they have some feeling of depressive type personality where they want to give and give and give, and oftentimes to their own detriment.
And that's why it's so important as a therapist. We talked about this last night too. You have to have a therapist as a therapist. Oh my God.
Shout out my dude Heath. You've all heard I've been in therapy every week for 6 years, and I will continue to go for the rest of my life. So yeah. And to be able to have the same therapist for that long is pretty sweet.
That's amazing. Yeah, it must be a good one.
Like a Freud psychoanalyst and all that. I only go the once a week. But like, it's felt nice to really get it under control over the last few years. But Carolyn, before I let you go, you want to show off that wedding ring I've seen you do a few times? It's pretty nice, y'all. I've been staring at it all interview. Strong work, Grandma Man.
Thank you.
And the ring. And Carolyn, this was so cool. We're repping the wireless mics now, so hopefully I can just shoot more shit like this out in the world.
Love it, in the wild.
Who did your nails?
Oh, so my girl Vanda always does my nails.
Vanda?
Yeah.
She got socials we need to plug? Is it a business or she just do it for fun? Because they're sweet.
Thank
Super
you.
cool designs.
Posh downtown, every single one of the girls there in Columbus is so talented at nail art. So yeah.
Hear that, Buckeyes? Posh downtown.
3 years I've been going to Vanda at Posh Downtown, and she's never done me wrong.
You'll all hear about this again later in the week, but Carolyn's rocking the Camp Livingston, my sister and my childhood summer camp, and they just ended on this week. So congrats, Abby, for ending the summer. This was fucking sweet. Can't wait to hang out again.
Yeah, thanks.
And hopefully Graham will come out to Big Wild in a few weeks because he has the green light from his fiance. How great.